When I think about trauma and the way that it impacts a person's whole sense of themselves and experience, a metaphor that I like to use is of a tapestry, with us, each individual being the weaver of that tapestry. So from the time that we're born, we're weaving. We weave with all kinds of threads, all colors, all textures, all materials. Some of those threads we're born with, some of them are given to us, and with time, many of them we do get to choose. So I may like to weave with silk or with satin, cotton, bright colors. And sometimes I may be given materials that are less pleasant, but I weave with them anyway. Colors I wouldn't have chosen, and I weave and I weave and I weave, and it's manageable. But sometimes, rather than just getting a piece of burlap or a color that is not appealing to you, instead, what appears in the loom is a string of barbed wire. Can you imagine trying to weave with barbed wire? It cuts up your hands, it snarls on every other fabric, every other piece of fiber in that tapestry, and very often creates a snarl, creates knots in that fabric. No matter how good a weaver you are, no matter how hard you try. And yet life goes on, and we continue to weave. When there have been these kinds of events where barbed wire has shown up in the midst of the life tapestry, those snarls remain, and the weaving continues with some of the same threads that are stuck in that tangle. And so what can happen is anytime one of those threads gets pulled on, that snarl is activated. That snarl wakes up. It's familiar, but it stays tangled. So what we're doing with EMDR therapy is that we are directly addressing the snarl. We're not working around it. We're not cutting it out, which is sometimes a fantasy people have. I just want to get rid of this thing. Cut it out, but then you'd be left with a hole in your tapestry. And that's not going to be helpful for you either. So what EMDR therapy does is it goes right for that tangle. And it allows that snarl, that tangle, to start to untangle, to unravel, so that the weaver can reweave those threads. And those threads have transformed in the untangling. They're softer, they're easier to work with, they're more manageable. They may still not be the colors that you would have chosen or even the materials or fabrics you would have wanted, but you can work with them now. The weaver, the nervous system, the person can now integrate those threads into the life tapestry and then take a step back and look at it with some perspective and take a look and say, wow, I never would have chosen this. I never would have chosen these fibers, these threads. But wow, look at what has become because of those threads. Look at how they come together. Look at how they look in the context of that wider weaving, that wider tapestry. And that's integration. That's healing.